Excuse me, I'd like to book a luxury Mediterranean cruise for my family, please.
The clerk's eyes dragged from her shoes to her hair, his face twisted in disgust. He stretched her words into a grotesque mockery of her accent.
A luxury cruise.
Head bobbing, neck rolling, every syllable dripping contempt. The whole room heard it. He turned to his coworker, grinning.
She wants the luxury experience, girl. You hear that? This filthy, broke, disgusting creature thinks she belongs on a first-class deck with civilized people.
He spun back, nostrils flared.
You people disgust me. Get your dirty ghetto self out of my store before you contaminated everything.
A customer filmed. Others stared. Nobody spoke. She didn't move, didn't flinch. Just absolute stillness. Not a single soul in that room could imagine what was coming next. To understand what happened inside that travel agency, you need to know who was standing at that counter. Monica Bradley grew up in a two-bedroom apartment in East Baltimore, the kind of neighborhood where sirens were background music, and the corner store had bulletproof glass. Her mother left when she was 3. Her father was never in the picture. The woman who raised her, her grandmother, Edith Bradley, worked double shifts at a hospital laundry facility for 26 years. Edith never took a vacation, not once. But every Sunday evening, she'd sit at the kitchen table with a stack of travel brochures she'd collected from the hospital lobby. She'd spread them out like a treasure map. Paris, Rome, Santorini. She'd point at the photos and say, "Baby, one day you're going to see all of this. Not in a magazine, with your own eyes." Monica never forgot that kitchen table. She graduated valedictorian from her high school, full academic scholarship to Howard University, double major in business and international relations. By 25, she'd saved enough from 3 simultaneous jobs to open a one-room travel agency in downtown Baltimore. The sign on the door read, Horizon Travel. 1 desk, 1 phone, 1 dream. 17 years later, that one-room office became Horizon Global Travel, the largest Black-owned travel firm in the United States. 1,200 franchise locations across 44 states, a valuation of $2.3 billion. Monica had been on the cover of Forbes. She'd been invited to the White House. She'd spoken at Davos. She'd built something that her grandmother never got to see, but always believed was possible. Edith passed away 4 years ago. She never did take that vacation. That's why Monica was in Scottsdale. She was attending the National Travel Industry Leadership Summit, a 3-day conference at the Scottsdale Resort, where she was scheduled as the closing keynote speaker. Between afternoon sessions, she had a 2-hour break, and she decided to do something she'd been planning for weeks. Her parents' 45th wedding anniversary was coming up in November. Monica wanted to surprise them. A 10-day luxury Mediterranean cruise for the whole family. 15 people. Rome, Santorini, Barcelona, Monaco. First-class everything. The kind of trip her grandmother used to dream about at that kitchen table. She didn't want to book it online. She didn't want an assistant to handle it. She wanted to walk into a travel agency, sit with someone, flip through brochures, and plan it the old-fashioned way. The way Edith would have done it. So during her break, still dressed casually from the gap between sessions, a simple white blouse, dark jeans, flat shoes, her old Howard University leather tote bag over one shoulder, she spotted a Prestige Voyages storefront in an upscale strip mall just a few blocks from the convention center. She recognized the Horizon Global branding in the corner of the window display, one of her own franchise locations. She smiled to herself. What a coincidence. She had no intention of revealing who she was. She wasn't there to inspect anything. She wasn't there as a CEO. She was there as a daughter, planning a gift for the 2 people who gave her everything. The agency was polished. Glass doors, marble-toned floors, large printed posters of European coastlines and Greek sunsets. A waiting area with leather chairs. Soft jazz drifting from ceiling speakers. The scent of vanilla from a diffuser near the entrance. Behind the main counter stood Craig Dawson, mid-30s, senior booking clerk. Loud voice, big smile. The kind of man who owned every room he walked into, whether the room wanted him to or not. He was helping a white couple, leaning forward with warmth, laughing at their jokes, calling them by first name. At a side desk sat Nina Sullivan, early 20s, junior clerk. Quiet, attentive. She watched more than she spoke. In the waiting area, a young black woman in her early 20s sat alone. Her body language told the whole story. Arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the floor. She'd been sitting there a long time. Passed over. The door chime rang. Monica walked in. Craig glanced up. His eyes moved fast. Her clothes, her hair, her skin. 1 second. That's all it took. He turned back to the white couple without a word. Nina started to rise from her desk to greet Monica, but Craig stopped her with a quick hand gesture. He mouthed 2 words. I got this. Monica sat down in the waiting area. The leather chair exhaled under her weight. She set her tote bag on her lap and looked around. The jazz played on. The air conditioning hummed. She glanced at the young black woman beside her. Their eyes met. No words, just a look. Quiet, knowing, heavy with shared experience. Then Monica folded her hands and waited. The white couple took their time. Craig laughed with them, shook their hands, walked them to the door like old friends. You two are gonna love Alaska. Best decision you ever made. He patted the man on the shoulder. Safe travels, buddy. The door closed behind them. The jazz played on. Craig walked back behind the counter. He didn't look at Monica. He straightened a stack of brochures, adjusted his computer monitor, took a sip of coffee, checked his phone, scrolled for a moment, then set it down. 30 seconds passed. A full minute. Monica sat perfectly still. Finally, without lifting his eyes from the counter, Craig spoke. You can come up now. Not, how can I help you? Not, thanks for waiting. Just a flat, careless command, like calling a number at the DMV. Monica rose from her chair, crossed the waiting area, and approached the counter. She set her tote bag down gently and smiled. Good afternoon. I'm interested in booking a 10-day luxury Mediterranean cruise for my extended family, 15 people. It's a surprise for my parents' 45th wedding anniversary. Something shifted in Craig's face. Not curiosity, not interest. Something colder. His chin lifted slightly. One eyebrow arched. His eyes swept over her again. The jeans, the flat shoes, the worn leather bag. He let out a slow breath through his nose. Okay, he drew the word out. So that particular package starts at about $12,000 per person, just so we're clear. He tapped the counter with his index finger. 12,000 per person, times 15. He let the math hang in the air like a dare. Monica didn't blink. I'm aware of the pricing. I'd also like to discuss cabin upgrades and private excursion add-ons for the group. Craig's jaw tightened. He stared at her for a beat too long, then turned to his computer screen and began clicking, slowly, reluctantly, like every keystroke was a personal favor. You know, he said, still facing the screen, we've got some great Caribbean packages that might be a little more realistic for your situation. 3 nights in Cancun, all-inclusive, $3.99 per person, real popular. Monica's voice stayed even. I'm not interested in Cancun. I'd like the Mediterranean itinerary. Rome, Santorini, Barcelona, Monaco. Craig stopped clicking. He turned to face her. The warmth he'd shown the white couple was gone. Completely gone. What replaced it was something bare and ugly. Ma'am, I'm trying to help you here. Those destinations are premium. We're talking about $180,000, minimum. He leaned forward. Do you understand what that number means? I understand perfectly. Do you, though? His voice dropped, but not his volume. Everyone in the room could hear. Because I've been doing this for 11 years, and I can usually tell within 10 seconds whether someone's serious or just window shopping. He looked her up and down one more time. And I gotta be honest with you. He paused, let the silence do the work. You don't look like a $180,000 customer. The young black woman in the waiting area shifted in her chair. Nina Sullivan's fingers froze above her keyboard. Monica held his gaze. I'd like to proceed. Then Monica asked. Craig heard that voice and saw an opportunity. He leaned toward Nina at the side desk. He didn't whisper. He didn't even try. She wants the insurance for the international coverage. His head bobbed with each syllable. His neck rolled. His voice pitched into a grotesque, exaggerated imitation of Monica's accent. Stretched, distorted, turned into a carnival act. Nina looked at the floor. She didn't laugh. Craig did. Loud. He turned back to Monica, still grinning, and spoke with exaggerated slowness, each word separated by a deliberate, patronizing pause. Let me explain how this works. Since it seems like we're having trouble understanding. The young black woman in the waiting area inhaled sharply. A white man near the brochure rack stiffened, set down his pamphlet, and walked out without a word. The glass door closed softly behind him. Monica's expression did not change. Not a flicker. Not a crack. She said quietly, "Could you repeat what you just said?" Craig's grin widened. He was enjoying this. The audience, the power, the performance. I said, do y'all need me to speak like this so you can understand? Full volume, head bobbing again, mocking every syllable. He turned to Nina, winking. I swear, every single time. Nina said nothing. Her face was white. Monica reached into her tote bag and pulled out a small leather notebook. She uncapped a pen and wrote something down. Slowly, deliberately. Her handwriting was neat and precise. Craig watched. His grin faded by a fraction. Just a fraction. Something about the notebook bothered him. The calmness of it. The intention behind it. But he shook it off. Crossed his arms. Reclaimed his stage. All right, look. Before we go any further with this little fantasy of yours, I'm going to need some verification. He ticked off the list on his fingers. Valid government ID, proof of funds, and a preliminary credit check. Company policy for large group bookings. Monica looked at him. Is that standard for all customers, or just me? Ma'am, I don't make the rules. The couple who just left booked an Alaskan cruise. You didn't ask them for any of that. Craig's smile hardened into something mean. That's different. How? He didn't answer the question. Instead, he reached under the counter and slid a printed flyer across the surface toward her. It was a bright, glossy ad for a Cancun spring break deal. $3.99 per person. Beach clip art, bold yellow font. Here, this might be more your speed. They've got payment plans, too. He tapped the flyer twice. Just in case. Monica looked at the flyer. She looked at Craig. She didn't touch it. I asked you a question, she said. How is it different? Craig leaned forward on both palms, close enough that she could smell his cologne. His voice dropped to something cold and final. Ma'am, if you can't provide the documentation I asked for, I can't help you. And honestly, I don't think you can. So maybe try one of those discount websites, or the Greyhound station. They take cash. He smiled, pleased with himself. A bully who just landed his best punch. At the side desk, Nina Sullivan's hands were shaking. She'd seen this before. The mockery, the steering, the fake verification rule that only applied to Black and Latino customers. She reported it once to Gerald Dawson, the franchise owner, Craig's uncle. Gerald's response was 2 sentences. "Stay in your lane. That's just Craig being Craig." Nothing changed. It never changed. But today, under her desk, Nina slid her personal phone from her pocket. She opened the voice recorder app. Her thumb hovered for a second. Then she pressed the red button. She set the phone face down on a stack of folders, microphone pointed toward the counter. Her hands were still trembling. Remember that recording. It's going to matter. Monica didn't leave. That was the part Craig wasn't prepared for. The insults, the mockery, the fake policy, the Cancun flyer. Every tool in his arsenal was designed to do one thing: make people like her disappear. Walk out quietly. Swallow the humiliation. Drive home in silence. But Monica Bradley turned around, walked back to the waiting area, and sat down. "I'll wait," she said. "I'd like to speak with your manager." Craig blinked. For the first time since she'd walked in, something in his posture shifted. Not fear, not yet. Just surprise. The script wasn't supposed to go this way. He recovered fast, puffed up his chest, laughed. Short, sharp, dismissive. "Manager? I am the senior clerk here. There's nobody above me in this office, so what you see is what you get, sweetheart." Monica folded her hands on her tote bag. Her voice didn't rise, not even half a note. "Then I'd like to speak with the franchise owner." The laughter died. Craig's jaw shifted, his eyes narrowed. Something about the way she said franchise owner, specific, deliberate, like she knew exactly what that title meant, scratched at something in his brain. But he didn't follow the thought. He just felt irritated. He picked up the desk phone and punched a number. He cupped the receiver against his shoulder. "Gerald, yeah, I got a situation out here. Difficult customer. Making demands. Won't leave." He glanced at Monica. "Yeah, one of those." He hung up. 40 seconds later, a door in the back hallway opened, and Gerald Dawson walked out. Gerald was mid-50s, heavy-set, red-faced from either the Arizona sun or his third bourbon of the afternoon. Hard to tell. He wore a golf polo stretched tight across his belly and khaki shorts with loafers. He looked like a man who'd been interrupted from something far more important than this. He didn't greet Monica. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't look at Nina for context. He looked at Craig, then at Monica, and made his calculation in under 2 seconds. "Ma'am." His voice was the kind of patient that isn't patient at all. The kind that talks to you like you're 5 and lost in a shopping mall. "My staff has been very patient with you, very accommodating. Now, if you're not ready to meet the documentation requirements we've outlined, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises." Monica looked at him. Steady. Unblinking. "What documentation requirements? I've booked travel packages with Horizon Global franchise partners across 30 states. I've never once been asked for a credit check at the counter." The name landed. Horizon Global. Gerald's mouth opened a fraction, then closed. His eyes darted to Craig for half a second. Craig didn't react. The name meant nothing to him beyond the small logo on the bottom corner of his paycheck stub. He'd never bothered to look it up. Never cared. But Gerald knew. Gerald knew exactly whose name was on the franchise license hanging in his back office. He knew whose corporate signature sat at the bottom of his operating agreement. He knew the name Horizon Global Travel the way a tenant knows the name of their landlord. But he looked at the woman sitting in his waiting area. Jeans, flat shoes, tote bag, and he couldn't connect the dots. Wouldn't connect them. Because the picture in his head of what power looks like didn't match the woman in front of him. So he brushed it off. Ma'am, every location has its own procedures, and right now, our procedure is that you need to leave. Monica didn't move. I'm a customer. I came in to book a service. I was mocked, insulted, and denied service. I'd like this resolved. Gerald's face reddened another shade. He turned to Craig. Craig shrugged. An exaggerated, "Can you believe this?" gesture meant for the room. Monica pulled out her phone, not to record. She opened her notes app and began typing. Date, time, names, details. Her fingers moved with calm, methodical precision. Craig saw the phone and pounced. Whoa, 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 ma'am, you can't be recording here. That's against the law. Put the phone away. Monica didn't look up. I'm taking notes. And for your reference, Arizona is a one-party consent state. Craig turned to Gerald. His voice dropped, but his eyes were lit with something volatile, adrenaline, control slipping. She's refusing to leave, Gerald. She's trespassing now. We should call the cops. Gerald hesitated. You could see it, the calculation behind his eyes, the franchise, the liability, the paperwork. But Craig was already moving, already picking up the desk phone, already dialing. Yeah, Scottsdale PD? I need to report a disturbance at a business on North Scottsdale Road. We've got a woman here, belligerent, aggressive, refusing to leave. Staff feels threatened. Belligerent, aggressive, threatened. 3 words, every single one of them a lie. And every single one of them carrying a weight that Craig understood and weaponized without a second thought. A black woman, alone, in a North Scottsdale business, with police now on the way. Summoned by a white man who used the word belligerent to describe a woman sitting quietly in a leather chair with a tote bag on her lap. The stakes in that room had just changed. This was no longer about a travel booking. This was no longer about a rude clerk. This was about something much older and much more dangerous. Monica's face showed nothing, but beneath the surface, she understood the math better than anyone in that room. She'd understood it her entire life. She picked up her phone and sent a single text to Terry Moore, her chief of staff back at the conference hotel across town. I'm at a Prestige Voyages in Scottsdale. They called the police on me. Terry read the message and was on her feet in 3 seconds. She called Derek Coleman, Horizon Global's general counsel, while pulling up the franchise database on her laptop. She forwarded the location address to the legal team. 7 minutes later, 2 Scottsdale PD officers walked through the glass doors of Prestige Voyages. One was younger, late 20s, sharp eyes, cautious. The other was older, heavy build, impatient expression, hand resting near his belt out of habit. Craig transformed. The moment the uniforms appeared, he became animated, urgent, convincing. He pointed at Monica, gestured with both hands, spoke fast. Officers, thank God, this woman has been disrupting our business for the last 30 minutes. She's been aggressive, confrontational. She refused to leave when asked. My staff doesn't feel safe. The younger officers scanned the room. A woman sitting quietly in a chair. A shaking junior clerk at a side desk. A franchise owner who wouldn't make eye contact. Nothing about this scene matched the word aggressive. The older officer walked directly to Monica. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step outside. Monica looked up at him. Her voice was steady and clear. My name is Monica Bradley. I'm a customer. I came in to book a vacation for my family. I was refused service. I asked to speak with a manager. I've been seated here quietly the entire time. That's not what happened, Craig cut in, his voice rising. She's been causing problems since. The young black woman in the waiting area stood up. Her voice shook, but she spoke loud enough for both officers to hear. She didn't do anything. He's been mocking her since she walked in. He made fun of her voice. He called her disgusting. I watched the whole thing. Craig snapped toward her. Nobody asked you. Sit down. The older officer raised a hand. He looked at Monica, then at the door. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you one more time. Step outside, now, or I'll have to arrest you for trespassing. Monica stood. She picked up her tote bag. She placed her notebook inside. She walked past Craig, past Gerald, past the officers, and through the glass doors without a single word. Craig watched her go through the window. He crossed his arms. He smiled. He had won. Or at least, that's what the smile said. Gerald exhaled, wiped his forehead, and disappeared into the back office. Nina sat frozen at her desk, phone still recording under the stack of folders. The jazz played on. Outside in the parking lot, Monica stood in the late afternoon sun. The officers gave her a verbal trespass warning and drove away. She watched their cruiser turn the corner and disappear. Then she dialed Derek Coleman directly. When he picked up, her voice shifted. It was the voice she used in boardrooms when contracts were about to be shredded, when partnerships were about to end, when someone had made a mistake so catastrophic that the only conversation left was about consequences. She gave him everything: the franchise ID number, Craig Dawson's name, Gerald Dawson's name, the date, the time, every word she could remember, every violation. Derek listened without interrupting. Then he said, "Terry already briefed me. I'll have the franchise review initiated within the hour. Legal letters go out by morning." A pause. "Do you want the full protocol?" Monica looked back at the glass doors of Prestige Voyages. Through the window, she could see Craig leaning on the counter, laughing at something on his phone. Gerald had reemerged and was laughing with him. Two men celebrating a victory that didn't exist. "The full protocol," she said. She hung up, slid the phone into her bag, took one last look at the storefront. They had no idea. Not a clue. Not even close. 8 o'clock the next morning. The Arizona sun was already hot against the glass doors of Prestige Voyages. Gerald Dawson pulled into his reserved parking spot, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. He was in a good mood. Yesterday's situation was behind him. The difficult woman was gone. Craig had handled it. The cops had handled it. Life moved on. He unlocked the front door, flipped the lights, and walked to his desk in the back office. He set down his coffee. He tapped his phone screen. 11 missed calls, all from the same number. A 202 area code, Washington, D.C. Below them, 6 emails, all from the same sender. Office of the General Counsel, Horizon Global Travel, Inc. Gerald's thumb hovered over the screen. His coffee sat untouched. Steam curled into nothing. He called the number back. 2 rings. A voice answered. Male. Calm. The kind of calm that doesn't need to raise itself because it already holds all the power. "This is Derek Coleman, General Counsel for Horizon Global Travel. Am I speaking with Gerald Dawson, franchise operator of Prestige Voyages, location 415, North Scottsdale Road?" Gerald cleared his throat. Yes, that's me. What's this about?" "Mr. Dawson, I'm calling to inform you of a formal compliance action initiated against your location as of 6 o'clock this morning, Eastern Time." Gerald's hand tightened around the phone. "Compliance action? For what?" "Yesterday afternoon at approximately 2:15 p.m., a customer entered your location seeking to book a Mediterranean cruise package for her family. She was subjected to racial mockery, denied service on fabricated grounds, and ultimately removed from your premises by police after your senior clerk filed a false disturbance report. That customer was Monica Bradley. Silence. The founder and chief executive officer of Horizon Global Travel, the parent company that owns the franchise license you currently operate under. Gerald didn't speak. He couldn't. The phone pressed against his ear felt like it weighed 50 pounds. His legs softened beneath him. He reached for the edge of his desk, but missed. His knees buckled, actually buckled, and he lowered himself to the floor behind his desk. He sat there, on the thin carpet, back against the wall, mouth open, eyes staring at nothing. Derek continued. His tone didn't change, not once. Effective immediately, all operations at your location are suspended, pending a full investigation. Your booking systems will be locked remotely within the hour. A compliance team will arrive at your premises by noon today. Your franchise agreement, valued at $1.2 million in annual revenue, is under formal review for termination. Gerald's voice came out cracked and dry. There has to be some kind of misunderstanding. She never said who she was. She looked like what, Mr. Dawson? Gerald stopped talking. There are no misunderstandings here, Derek said. There is a recording. The line went dead. Gerald sat on the floor of his own office for a long time. The coffee on his desk went cold. Then he called Craig. Craig was at home, feet up, TV on, still riding the high of yesterday's performance. He answered on the second ring, voice loose and easy. Hey, what's up? Craig. Gerald's voice was barely a whisper. That woman yesterday, the one we had removed. Yeah, what about her? That was Monica Bradley. Silence. The Monica Bradley, the CEO, the founder. She owns Horizon Global. Gerald's voice broke. She owns us, Craig. She owns the license. She owns the brand. She owns the building we operate in. Every paycheck you've ever cashed from that store has her signature on the bottom of the chain. Craig didn't speak for 10 seconds. Then 15. Then 20. No, he said. No, no, no. That's not... She didn't look like... There's no way. Google her, Craig. Right now. Google her name. Craig pulled up his phone with shaking hands. He typed Monica Bradley, Horizon Global, into the search bar. The results loaded. Forbes cover. The woman redefining American travel. Monica Bradley. Same face, same calm eyes, same woman he'd mocked, imitated, and thrown out like garbage. CNBC interview. Horizon Global's $2.3 billion valuation. There she was again, poised, powerful, commanding a room of executives. White House photo. Monica shaking hands with the president, smiling, wearing a navy blazer and pearl earrings. The same woman he told to try the Greyhound station. Craig's phone slipped from his hand and hit the floor. He called Gerald back. His voice was fast, high, desperate. We can fix this. I'll call her. I'll apologize. I'll drive to her hotel right now. Gerald, I can fix this. She's not taking calls, Craig. Gerald's voice was flat, empty. Her lawyer is taking calls. By noon, a black SUV pulled into the Prestige Voyages parking lot. 2 corporate auditors, a compliance officer, and a legal representative from Horizon Global stepped out. They wore badges. They carried briefcases. They did not smile. They locked the booking systems, collected hard drives, downloaded security camera footage, interviewed Nina Sullivan in a private room. She handed over her audio recording without hesitation. By 2 o'clock, the glass doors of Prestige Voyages were locked. A printed notice hung on the front entrance, taped at eye level. This location is temporarily closed, pending a compliance investigation by Horizon Global Travel, Inc. Craig drove to the store that afternoon. He parked in the lot and stared at the notice through his windshield. His name badge was still clipped to his shirt. His hands gripped the steering wheel so hard, his knuckles turned white. 24 hours ago, he was smirking behind that counter. Now, he couldn't even get through the door. It took 48 hours, that's all. 48 hours for everything Craig Dawson had built his small, arrogant life around to collapse completely. The investigation was swift. Horizon Global's compliance team reviewed Nina Sullivan's audio recording, the store's security footage, customer transaction logs, and written statements from 3 witnesses. The findings were devastating. Craig had violated Horizon Global's anti-discrimination policy, the Customer Service Code of Conduct, and the Franchise Operating Agreement's Equal Access Clause. Each violation alone was a terminable offense. Together, they were a death sentence for his career. Craig was summoned to a video call with Horizon Global's corporate HR. He sat alone in his apartment, staring at a laptop screen. On the other side were 2 HR executives, a compliance officer and a legal representative. 4 faces, none friendly. They gave him a chance to speak. It was just a joke. I joke with everybody. That's just how I am. Silence. She didn't say she was anyone important. How was I supposed to know? She walked in wearing jeans and some old bag. She didn't look like a CEO. Silence. I treat everyone the same. Ask anybody. The compliance officer reached for her keyboard. Mr. Dawson, I'm going to play something for you. Nina's audio recording filled the room. Craig's own voice came back at him. The mocking accent, the stretched syllables, the laughter, the words filthy, disgusting, trash. Every syllable is preserved in digital clarity. 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Nobody spoke during that time. When it ended, Craig had nothing left. Your employment is terminated effective immediately, the HR lead said. Do not contact any Horizon Global staff, franchise partners, or customers. The screen went black. Craig sat staring at his own reflection in the dark laptop. The excuse that stung most was the second one. She didn't say she was anyone important. Think about that. In Craig's mind, respect wasn't a default. It was a reward. If Monica had walked in wearing a designer suit with a Birkin bag, Craig would have been all smiles. The mockery, the accent imitation, the Greyhound comment, none of it would have happened. But she walked in looking ordinary. And ordinary, to Craig, meant disposable. That's the problem. Not just Craig's problem. The problem. Gerald Dawson's reckoning came next. His franchise license was officially revoked. The Prestige Voyages Scottsdale location, his pride, his income, his identity, stripped away in a single letter from Derek Coleman's office. He lost his $1.2 million annual revenue stream. He forfeited his $180,000 franchise deposit, non-refundable under the breach of contract clause he'd signed 11 years ago. All inventory, branded materials, and booking systems were reclaimed by Horizon Global. Gerald tried calling Monica directly. 3 voicemails over 2 days. The first was apologetic, terrible misunderstanding, deeply regret. The second was desperate. I'll do anything, just let me keep the franchise. The third turned ugly, threatening a lawsuit. Derek Coleman responded with 1 letter, certified mail. Any further direct contact with Ms. Bradley will be treated as harassment. All legal matters will proceed through counsel. Gerald's wife found out that evening. His business partners stopped returning calls by the end of the week. The Scottsdale golf buddies, the Chamber of Commerce friends, they all went quiet. Nobody wanted to stand next to a man whose name meant discrimination. But one person in this story didn't fall. Nina Sullivan. She was not terminated. During her interview, she provided the audio recording, a written statement, and something nobody expected. A personal log of discriminatory incidents spanning 18 months. Dates, times, customer descriptions, specific words Craig had used, Specific customers turned away based on skin color. She'd kept it all in a spiral notebook hidden in her car, too afraid to leave it in the office. Horizon Global offered Nina a transfer to a franchise location in Denver, better position, a raise, a formal letter of commendation. She accepted. She didn't do anything loud. She didn't confront Craig. She did the quiet, terrifying thing. Documented the truth when no one was watching, knowing it might cost her everything. That matters more than most people realize. The story might have ended there. A clerk fired, a franchise revoked, a quiet transfer for the one person who did the right thing. In most cases, that's where it stops, behind closed doors, internal memos, confidential settlements, no headlines, no hashtags, no accountability beyond a signature on a termination letter. But this story didn't stay quiet, because someone pressed post. The young black woman from the waiting area, Shanice Watts, 23 years old, graduate student at Arizona State, had been carrying that afternoon in her chest like a stone. She couldn't sleep that night. She couldn't eat the next morning. She kept hearing Craig's voice in her head, the stretched syllables, the bobbing head, the laughter. And she kept seeing Monica's face, that impossible stillness while a room full of people watched and did nothing, including herself. That guilt burned. 2 days after the incident, Shanice sat on her apartment floor with her phone and typed a post. No filter, no polish, just the truth, exactly as she remembered it. She described the travel agency, the clerk who mocked a black woman's accent to her face, the uncle who backed him up, the police who escorted her out. The fact that not one person in that room, including Shanice herself, had done enough to stop it. She tagged Horizon Global Travel. She tagged Monica Bradley's public page. She tagged every local news outlet she could find. She pressed the post at 11:42 p.m. on a Thursday night. By Friday morning, it had 6,000 shares. By Saturday afternoon, 2.4 million views. By Sunday, it was everywhere. The hashtags wrote themselves. Hashtag respect at the counter. Hashtag Monica Bradley. Hashtag prestige disgrace. Local Scottsdale News picked it up first. A reporter stood outside the locked doors of Prestige Voyages, with the corporate notice still taped to the glass. Then Phoenix affiliates ran it. Then National, CNN, MSNBC. The story was irresistible. A black female CEO walks into her own franchise location to book a family vacation and is mocked, racially profiled, and removed by police. The internet didn't just react, it erupted. Monica gave one interview, a single controlled sit-down with a national outlet. The setting was deliberate, her corner office at Horizon Global's headquarters. The Scottsdale skyline glowed through floor-to-ceiling windows behind her. On the wall to her left, her Howard University diploma. On the shelf beside it, a framed photo of her grandmother, Edith. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She was measured and devastating. She described what happened without embellishment. The accent mockery, the fake verification policy, the Cancun flyer, the police call. She told it the way she'd lived it, calmly, precisely, with the weight of a woman who understood that her experience was not unique. Then she said the line that landed nationally. I wasn't there to test anyone. I walked in to plan my parents' anniversary trip, and I was treated like I didn't belong in my own company's store. Imagine what happens to customers who don't have a legal team on speed dial. That quote ran on every network, every outlet, every timeline. But Monica wasn't finished. She revealed that Horizon Global had received over 200 discrimination complaints across franchise locations in the past 2 years. 200. And that her experience in Scottsdale proved the problem was not isolated. It was systemic. The interview aired on a Tuesday evening. By Wednesday morning, Shanice Watts had filed a formal civil rights complaint with the Arizona Attorney General's office, citing racial discrimination under the Arizona Civil Rights Act. Nina Sullivan's audio recording was submitted as primary evidence. Then the floodgates opened. 8 additional former customers came forward within 2 weeks. 8 people, Black and Latino, who had walked into that same Prestige Voyages location over the past 2 years and experienced the same pattern: the mockery, the steering toward budget packages, the fake documentation requests, the cold stares, and the warm smiles reserved only for white customers. A pattern and practice case began to form. Craig Dawson was personally named in the complaint. Gerald Dawson was named as the enabling franchise operator, who had received prior internal complaints and deliberately ignored them. Derek Coleman, on behalf of Horizon Global, cooperated fully with the investigation. He turned over internal complaint records, franchise audit findings, and the full termination documentation. Horizon Global didn't protect Gerald. They handed him over on a silver platter. The Arizona Attorney General's office announced a formal investigation into discriminatory business practices at the Prestige Voyages Scottsdale location. It made the evening news in 3 states. Craig hired a lawyer. The lawyer reviewed the evidence, the audio recording, the security footage, the 8 additional complainants, the corporate file, and advised Craig to settle. Quietly, quickly, before it got worse. But the complainants weren't interested in quiet. They'd been quiet long enough. 6 months later, the case was resolved. Craig Dawson was found liable for discriminatory conduct under Arizona civil rights law. He was ordered to pay $95,000 in damages split among the complainants. He was required to complete 200 hours of community service with a civil rights organization, and he was mandated to attend a 12-month anti-discrimination education program. Gerald Dawson was found liable as the enabling operator. He was ordered to pay $250,000 in fines. He was permanently barred from holding any Horizon Global franchise license, and his name was entered into the state's public record of civil rights violations. The Scottsdale location was reopened 3 months after the verdict, under new ownership. A Black-owned small business group that had been on Horizon Global's franchise waitlist for 2 years was awarded the license. Monica approved it personally. Justice. Not the Hollywood kind. No dramatic courtroom speeches, no slow-motion gavels. The real kind. The kind that shows up in legal filings, financial penalties, and a man's name permanently attached to the word discrimination in a public database. Craig's life after the verdict was small and getting smaller. His name was the first result on Google, news articles, the viral post, the legal filing. He deleted every social media account he had. He applied for 3 jobs in the service industry over the following months. Each employer ran a basic background search. Each one declined. Public conduct concerns. He moved out of Scottsdale, left Arizona entirely. His uncle Gerald stopped speaking to him. The man who had enabled him, protected him, and laughed with him through the glass doors of Prestige Voyages, gone. Blood wasn't thicker than a $250,000 fine. He thought he was the gatekeeper. Turns out he was just a guest. And he got himself uninvited. 6 months after that afternoon in Scottsdale, Monica Bradley stood backstage at the Horizon Global Annual Leadership Summit. 400 people filled the hotel ballroom: franchise owners, regional managers, corporate staff, and partners from across the country. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, the hum of conversation and clinking glasses. Monica adjusted the collar of her blazer. She held a single index card in her hand. She didn't need notes for this speech. She'd been writing it in her head since the moment she walked out of those glass doors. The MC called her name. The room stood. Applause filled every corner. She walked to the podium, set down the index card, looked out across the room, and waited for silence. 6 months ago, she began, I walked into one of our franchise locations to book a cruise for my parents' anniversary. I was wearing jeans. I was carrying my grandmother's old tote bag from Howard. I looked like a regular customer, because that's what I was. She paused. The clerk behind the counter took one look at me and decided I didn't belong. He mocked my voice. He imitated my accent in front of a room full of people. He told me I was disgusting. He told me to leave. And when I didn't, he called the police. The ballroom was silent. 400 people. Not a fork moved. Not a glass touched a table. He didn't know who I was. And that's exactly the point. Because what if I wasn't me? What if I was just a woman on her lunch break trying to plan something beautiful for her family? What if I didn't have a legal team? What if I didn't have a platform? What would have happened to her? She let the question sit. I'll tell you what would have happened. Nothing. She would have walked out, driven home, told no one, and that clerk would still be behind that counter today, doing the same thing to the next person who walked in looking like me. She gripped the edges of the podium. That's why we're making changes. Not because of what happened to me, because of what's been happening to people who don't have my name or my resources. People whose stories never make the news. She announced a new company-wide initiative, the Open Door Standard. Mandatory anti-discrimination training for every Horizon Global franchise employee. Not optional, not suggested, mandatory. Quarterly equity audits at all 1,200 locations. And a direct customer complaint hotline that bypassed franchise management entirely and connected straight to corporate. If someone walks into one of our locations and is treated like they don't belong, Monica said, I want to know about it before they reach the parking lot. The room erupted. Standing ovation. 400 people on their feet. Monica stepped back from the podium. Her eyes moved across the crowd. And she found her. Third row from the back, left side, Nina Sullivan, now an assistant manager at a top-performing Horizon Global location in Denver. She'd flown in for the summit on her own dime. She wasn't scheduled to speak. She just wanted to be in the room. Monica saw her, nodded. A small, quiet nod. Nina nodded back. Her eyes were wet. But she was smiling. There was one more person who wasn't in that ballroom, but whose presence Monica felt every day. Shanice Watts, the young woman from the waiting area, had used her portion of the settlement to enroll in a hospitality management program at Arizona State. She was 3 semesters in. Dean's List. She'd sent Monica a handwritten thank you card 2 months after the verdict. 3 sentences. Simple. Honest. Monica kept it framed on the bookshelf in her office, right next to the photo of her grandmother Edith. Some stories end with a gavel. Some end with a fine. This one ended with a woman standing at a podium, building something better from the wreckage of something broken. And with a young clerk in Denver who learned that courage doesn't always look like confrontation. Sometimes it looks like a trembling thumb pressing a red record button under a desk when nobody's watching. And with a 23-year-old grad student who sat on her apartment floor one night, wrote the truth, and pressed post. If this story hit you somewhere real, drop a comment. Tell me, have you ever witnessed something like this? What did you do? What do you wish you'd done? Hit that like button if you believe respect shouldn't come with a dress code or a credit check. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. Trust me, I've got plenty. And share this with someone who needs to hear it, because you know someone who does. One last thing before you go. Respect doesn't cost a thing, but disrespect, that bill always comes due.
11 years behind the counter, and it took Monica Bradley one afternoon to show Craig Dawson who was the one who never belonged there. But his IQ is what gets me. She didn't say she was anyone important. In Christ's word, respect had the price tag. If Monica walked in with a Birkin bag, he would roll out the red carpet. But she showed up in jeans and her grandmother's old tote bag, and that was enough for him to decide she was nothing. And then there's Nina, a first plate under a stack of folders. 2 minutes and 14 seconds of cracked old voice. That's all it took to the end carriers and expose 18 months of discrimination. Courage doesn't always look like confrontation. Sometimes it's a trembling thumb pressing record. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in that room, a place where someone got disrespected and you just watched? Shanice was there too. She saw everything. The guy kept her out until she wrote the truth and pressed the post. What about you? Would you have been Nina, Shanice, or the ones who look away? Tell me in the comments. If this hit you, smash that like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you haven't. And remember, respect doesn't cost a thing, but disrespect that will always come due.
Ôi giời ơi, ôi giời ơi.